When it comes to the grand scheme of the Ultraman franchise, there's one guy that usually pops up in terms of popularity and his sheer significance in keeping the franchise in a positive light and in a way that allow new stories to be told and even to connecting different eras of Ultraman, that being Ultraman Zero, the son of Ultra 7, and the guy who helped bridge the gap between the Heisei era, the second generation that is, and the third generation guys. Let's look at this quick footage right here. You know what I mean? Like, Ultraman Zero, every time he pops up, he gets a new form of some kind. Whether it's the wild burst we got from the Destined Crossroad and Absolute Conspiracy storyline, to the new Cosmo Rise that he's getting this year, which I'm sure is the form he will get in his fourth film that releases in 2027, because part of what made me want to make this video is that Ultraman Zero is getting his fourth film. And I want to talk about his original film trilogy. A trilogy that, well, maybe not quite meant to be a trilogy as a whole in terms of a connecting storyline, besides the fact that he appears in it, but it's still a trilogy of sorts, and one that shows the growth of Ultraman Zero and him being put in new situations, and includes some surprising connecting tissue, like ultramandyna appearing in at least two of the films. But without further ado, let me know in the comments what your favorite Ultraman Zero film or short series like the Chronicles are, or even one of your favorite appearances of Zero, and let's get into his trilogy, spanning from Mega Monster Battle the movie, to Ultraman Zero Revenge of Belial, and then lastly Ultraman Saga. When it comes to talking about these films, I'm going to talk them just kind of as a whole, not in any particular order, just more so bouncing between the parts that I like and maybe some critiques as well. Ultimately, I was quite surprised in my most recent rewatch of Mega Monster Battle. Of course, Ultraman Zero isn't in the film the entire time. It's more about the build-up to him and just seeing for honestly the first time, because this was new territory, and seeing so many Ultras at once. At the same time, even seeing Ultraman King appear, and including the appearance of ultramandyna, officially meeting the Showa Ultra Brothers in the main continuity. Really cool stuff. And of course, the whole, Mega Monster army, and including the bout appearance of Belial, the big bad, at least one of the more popular mainstay reoccurring big bads of Ultraman. But there you go. We got Belial, and when we get Belial, we got Zero. A guy who spent 20,000 years not knowing that Ultra 7 is his father. Great parody from Ultra 7. But it's okay. Ultraman Leo got his due back by getting my fan canon is he got to torture Ultraman Zero for 20,000 years, which is why Ultraman Zero became so overpowered over time. There you go. That's your Mr. Tiger Drops headcanon for you. Let me know in the comments if you agree. But of course, so we see him eventually defeat Belial in that first film, and then they have their rematch and Revenge of Belial, and that second film is one that I think isn't not my favorite of these three, and I'll tell you why. I still think it's really good, and you get to see some cool new incarnations of old tokusatsu characters such as Mirror Man and Fireman, Jumborg Ace, all those cool guys returning with new characters in their pantheon, a part of their species, or whatever you want to call it. And I think it's cool that Ultraman Zero got to have these guys part of his team. I've talked about that previously in the Legacy Ultraman Zero video from last year, where I talked about Zero in general. But now let's bounce to Ultraman Saga, and I think this one really surprised me. I debate if this is my favorite of these three films, or if it's going to be Mega Monster Battle, but I think Ultraman Saga is still one that really surprised me because of how more of a low-key story it is. Obviously, it doesn't have the insane scale and has more, I guess, real-world locations, if you will, than the past two Ultraman Zero films. But what really stood out to me about Saga was it was so just adept and just confident in how it presented and had trust in us as the audience that you know about these particular versions of Ultraman. And like I said earlier, one thing I completely, forgot when I was watching Saga was that Dyna already met Zero in Mega Monster Battle, and that's such a cool just thing to have here. So there's definitely a pre-established bond between Zero and Dyna, and I think that definitely pays off here, as of course they bond and they merge and become the titular Ultraman Saga. And then there's Cosmos, and from my understanding of some rewrites from the 311 disaster event, Ultraman Cosmos' role was definitely the one that took the biggest beating in terms of being in this film. And you can definitely feel it here. I still think it's great to have Cosmos, of course, seeing Musashi, and him getting to meet Asuka, and then we get Ultraman Zero's new host for this film, that being Taiga. No, not Ultraman Taiga. Taiga from the Neo Frontier. So, again, you get that connection of Dyna, having Taiga being from that universe, Dyna's original universe, and Tiga's too, and then meeting Zero again. And just seeing these two meet with their human host this time feels much more important here, or at least not that they didn't do it, but it feels much more like of a cinematic event in that aspect. So while Saga may be seen by some as the last of quote-unquote classic-style Ultraman films, Saga is what I think a worthwhile watch that manages to tie in several parts of the Ultraman mythos and universes. For me, like I said, this is simply a more direct way of bridging the gap between the previous decades of Ultraman with the incoming new generation. Remember, this is right before Ginga even debuted. We were still in Prime Zero territory. I adored that it built off the previous films, even having Ultraman Zero use, I think it's, that Noah power-up he has. I think it's Shining Zero, that armor he has. It's cool that we saw that in the previous film of The Revenge of Belial, and him using it here is really nice. And I think I definitely prefer the Taiga guy as a human host for Ultraman Zero than the last one, also because Taiga, he didn't want to be Ultraman. That little subversion was wonderful, and the little revealed connection that Taiga has as part of the Neo Frontier universe, even seeing him get yelled at by Rio and when they're on Mars, just seeing the whole, Super Guts team again, all that stuff, just especially just shows that this film really is also about Ultraman Dyna. Yeah, like I said, this is not so much an Ultraman Zero trilogy, his face is all over it, and he is important to it, but he definitely takes the backseat in this one. Surprisingly, I think the two films where he doesn't appear the most, because I love Zero, but in these three films, in this context, I definitely prefer Mega Monster and Ultraman Saga, but that's because I love Dyna so much. And as in terms of a film, Ultraman Saga, boy, does it deliver as a Dyna experience. The big reveal/return mash of Dyna and Asuka appearing after they already made an impact to the Earth Defense Team U and the children surviving on this Earth was wonderful, and showed how heroic Asuka is even when he's not on screen. His legendary status is felt. And best of all, the creators made Kimi Dake o Momori Tai a literal song that Asuka taught the new cast. And hearing Asuka's rendition when Dyna makes a big comeback was magnificent. And this film being the closest we got to Asuka meeting the his Super Guts family, makes me misty-eyed, damn it. This franchise has a certain indescribable way of doing bittersweet reunions. And honestly, the franchise seems to be deliberately holding back on some reunions, as if mirroring real life in some way. Other big highlight for me in terms of Saga was seeing Return Ultraman villains get their chance as big bads following original Ultraman or Ace characters headlining the previous mainstay films. Here we get Alien Bat in an all-new glorious redesign with an army of monsters at his disposal, including Arstraw and Black King from Return, and a new Hyper Zeton to boot. In terms of other returning kaiju, we Gomez, Gubula, and a host of specific battles to battle 5 of the Ultra Brothers. Good to see you, Leo. I also think that in terms of Zero, Leo's here because he was his master, and also because that, it's just so cool seeing Leo, especially him defeating Tyrant of all characters. And honestly, the scene of the 5 Ultra Brothers reuniting is a cool, pace-breaking, deleted scene. And the reason I talked about the kaiju and Saga is there's no way I'm going to be able to list all the kaiju and Mega Monster Battle, the movie. We would be here for at least another year until the 61st anniversary of Ultraman. As a big nerd, though, a big Ultra nerd, I would have kept the deleted scene of the 5 Ultra Brothers, since we get to see the original hosts return once more. Now, yes, all 5 of them, they do appear in the final cut while in the Land of Light. You get to see the 5 actors, you get to see them just appear outside of their ultra forms and their robes, and it's really cool. But again, just seeing them twice in this film, it's just, come on, I want to see more. You know what I mean? I love seeing my boy Hideki go there, all 5 of them. It's nice seeing Ettore appear, for Leo too. The part of me feels that them appearing in the finale battle, the final battle, really helps make this feel like an Ultraman saga, if you will. Now, one cool thing about Musashi appearing in this film and him meeting Zero is that you get this little wink in the Ultraman Ginga movie in the 10 Ultra Brothers Showdown, where Zero, right when he first makes his appearance, he says, "Hey Musashi, good to see you again." So small things like that, I think, in the grand scheme of things, of yes, this isn't a coherent Ultraman Zero trilogy, but seeing him, the fact that they're Super is really going to do an actual fourth film and having going back and doing a retrospective on these three, just interesting. And of course, you could say Ultraman Zero is more than just these three films, counting all of his appearances in the new Gen movies, or even the Ultra Galaxy movies. But I digress. There is definitely a certain difference between these original three and the era before Ginga officially appeared to kick off the third generation. Now, when it comes to the Saga combination himself, I argued that he does work with the Cosmos being part of it on a technical side due to his passive justice forming legend. So Cosmos has that in his history. But I even argued that the film didn't inherently need Ultraman Saga himself to work. It didn't need a big Ultra fusion. It is earned. But I wouldn't have minded just seeing Dyna, Cosmos, and Zero just switch to a different form, each to counteract Alien Bat, and Zeton together, right? Like see Dyna go in Miracle form, or Cosmos go to Eclipse, or Zero go into any one of his other forms besides the armor he uses in this film. Of course, funnily enough, in that Ultraman Ginga movie I mentioned, I get just that. We get to see both Dyna and Cosmos use at least one of their other forms, and it definitely, maybe somebody who worked on Saga on the production team saw that and wanted to do that in that film. So I get it. But again, here in Saga, it's fine. I could go either way of having a big fusion or no fusion, especially since we really haven't, I don't think we ever see Saga after this at all. Not even in the Ultra Galaxy Fight series. I will say, the biggest highlight of Saga is, again, I really like that. The reason I'm focusing on Saga is I think it really helps tie down Ultraman Zero, as you really get to see him defended Earth from if my memory serves me right, the first time. Because, again, Ultraman Zero, he made his unique and earned about being the quote-unquote chosen one after Mebius and defeating Belial, and as he saw in that clip, it pretty much takes on a whole army of powerful Ultra Kaiju. But then again, he gets to then hop the multiverse and revenge Belial. So we saw Zero going from being the chosen one in Mega Monster Battle to being the first big multiverse hopper besides Dyna and revenge of Belial. Then this Ultraman Saga film, it's more down to earth. Again, the dynamic of Taiga and Zero not knowing how to work together, even that funny scene of Zero spawning in as like a quarter of the size Ultraman's supposed to be, and him having to be creative to help Cosmos in the fight because Taiga just doesn't want to be Ultraman. And the fact that Taiga's story ties into Dyna's, at least in terms of Dyna's legend in the Neo Frontier universe. It's just, again, Saga pays off against the multiverse concept and Revenge of Belial, and it feels earned, and I like it. This film, the characters, we get to see Taiga become a goddamn badass as he grows and learns to embrace being Ultraman with Zero, and ultimately, even when they do part, Taiga takes what he learned from Zero to protect this Earth that doesn't have an Ultraman. And I like that. It shows that Ultraman Zero has made a really big impact in all these different universes. High praise, sure, but it's a welcome one. And I think it goes, I don't say it lightly, because I do think Zero has really made such a unique impact in the literal sense in the storylines and of course in real life. Regardless, I genuinely enjoyed Saga's story and unique angle to a human strike team, and I think that the build up to having this makeshift defense team that reveal that they aren't even the real ones, but they're still trying, and them helping defeat the villain was fantastic. Again, that little Ultraman Saga, he doesn't defeat Zeton alone. The strike team, they help him. They use those bombs they were putting around the city earlier to help, destabilize Zeton. It's a good payoff. This is still a tight-knit story of Saga and the little things that pay off, such as the film opening on an empty Earth and ending on the world lighting up again at night with everybody back. Regardless, I genuinely enjoyed Saga's story and unique angle to a human strike team with some serious stakes that made it important as to why different Ultras from across the multiverse came to save this particular Earth. Ultraman does the multiverse like no other, making it relatable in a distinctly ethereal way. So with all that being said, do I have a favorite? Well, my favorite kind of straddles between Mega Monster Battle or Ultraman Saga, but I still really appreciate Revenge of Belial. All in all, I do think these films do tie into each other and showing us fans for the first time just how vast the Ultraman universe can be, including other non-Ultra Tokusatsu heroes. And of course, just seeing different people, aliens or humans, bonding with Ultras and trying to form their own story. So while a film like Mega Monster Battle juggles a lot, has a gigantic cast, and has a skill never seen before at that point, that's kind of a big ensemble story. And then you have Revenge of Belial, which opens the door to the multiverse more directly, taking it on while showing a cool rivalry between Ultraman Zero and Belial continuing to fester that would tie and pay off if you follow the new generation shows after that. And Ultraman Saga marks a kind of turning point for the franchise, being arguably the last big film that's kind of its own thing until maybe Shin Ultraman. But with all that being said, this is such a unique part in Ultraman's history, and as this channel is celebrating Ultraman's big 60th anniversary, and that we know Ultraman Zero is going to be coming back on the horizon, well, I always like to do a cool retrospective like this. Let me know in the comments what your favorite Ultraman Zero memories are. Check out my other Ultraman videos if you enjoyed this one, and if you are a returning viewer, thank you. Until then, I've been Mr. Tiger Drop Films. Every day is a Tokusatsu day, and I'll see ya at the next one, cause I got more coming. See ya.